everyone, I'm Maria Guretti and I'd like to welcome you to a brand new episode of First Post 9 Months Season 4, India's first show that embraces all the aspects and phases of the parenting journey. So in our previous episode, we took a good look at nutrition, fitness and health. In this episode, we're going to preschool. You know, school can be very daunting for parents too, keeping up with the demands of getting our kids into the right preschool to make sure we're on top of his or her schoolwork and learning. It's a lot to handle. But for most of us, it's a time to see our little ones really blossom into their own personhood. Sounds familiar? Well, today we have with us as guests Kusum Kanwar, Principal of Kangaroo Kids; Richa S. Mukherjee, author, blogger and advertising professional; Neha Kare, influencer mom, head of community, Unimo Universe of Moms. And now we have Rakshanda Khan, actor and mom. Welcome all of you. It's really nice having you on our today's panel. Rakshanda is an actor. Your daughter is now...
My daughter's now 4.5 and she's turning slowly and steadily into a monster.
I wonder where she gets that from.
It's not hereditary, if that's what you're wondering.
Neha, you have 12-year-old twins, pre-teens. Yeah. How is that working out?
Having twins is like climbing Mount Everest and without any conditioning.
Without any conditioning. You're a principal.
Right.
31 and 23-year-old girls.
Right.
You're like sitting all zen now. You have nothing
No. She's dealing with our kids every day, right? So she's got 31 and 23 and then 4 and 3 and 2.
Of course, there's still a handful. It's not that, you know, you can... Children are children.
Never gets easy.
Never gets easy.
Thank you. Makes me feel good.
And Richa, you have a 5-year-old.
Yes, and I've told her the shutters are down. I've told the entire family, but she insists once in a while that, Mama, Amazon, Big Basket, just like order another one. So I just tell her, no, beta, we're
Sale
done.
is over. We're done.
Yeah, we're done.
I'm not being judgmental here. I just want to put down that disclaimer. But you know, we're all a certain kind of mom. So we have these titles here, and you can pick your type. We'll start with Richa. So what kind of a mom are you, Richa?
I'd like to believe that I'm a moderate mom.
Okay.
And it depends on the situation, but I try to toe the middle line in most cases. And
are you successful at it?
My daughter would have to be checked with and my husband. But yeah, on most days I tell myself at the end of the day that today is done and it's all good and let's move on to the next day.
Neha?
Best friend mom. I'm not a best friend mom, but I'm a friend mom. My kids are quite open with me and they can discuss anything under the sky with me. And at the same time, I discipline them with my decisions. So they're scared of me. So even if they have to drink a soft drink at a party, till now, they call me or either text me.
How did she manage to do that? I want your picture in my house. I will wake up every... वो बच्चों की photo लगाती ना कि मेरा बच्चा ऐसा पैदा होगा. So I want to put her photo every morning and look at it.
Kusum, what kind of a mom are you?
Best friend mom.
Okay.
But I think my daughters feel I'm a perfectionist and also I'm impossible.
That's nice. To be an impossible mom is great.
Do your kids actually hate you because you're the teacher always at home?
Absolutely. You're just trying to be more strict and you're trying to set an example. You want to be the role model and you feel that, you know, no one else should think that, you know, I'm being partial or I'm being biased about it.
Rakshanda, what kind of a mom are you?
I'm a harrowed mom. I have to figure out who's older, my kid or me, because my kid is convinced I'm the youngest. So her father was talking to her and he said, so you listen to Didi. She's older than me. You listen to Sadhvi. She's older than me. You listen to Dad. You're older than me. Why don't you listen to Mom? She's younger than me, na? I don't need to listen to her. Somewhere I need to figure out what it is that I need to do to find that even ground with my child.
I think eventually we will.
Maybe 20 years down the line, if you still have this show on, maybe I could come back and I'll tell you.
I don't recognize you. Right. Okay, so we're coming back to preschool. I know it tends to be far more difficult for us as parents than it is for actually the kids. But you know, there are so many things going on through their minds, and this is the first time that the child is actually going to be gone for so many hours. There is more anxiety for us as parents, and I think somewhere that translates to the kids. Rakshanda, your daughter is
She's 4.5 now.
So what was it like for her?
Initially, it doesn't feel that nice, but once the feeling sinks in, it's wonderful.
Yes,
It's bliss. It's so much fun. So
Kusum,
much fun.
I'm going to ask you, because you're the principal, what is first day of preschool for you?
I've been a mom and I have very, very experienced people around me. Yes, it's harrowing, but then we do keep our calm, because if both sides are harrowed, then
it's not going to be
it's not
fun
going to
at
be
all.
fun for anybody.
Richa, your 5-year-old, does she come back every day from school and tell you about her day?
Absolutely nothing. So I come back and like, when she initially came back from school, I was like, baby, come, give me a hug, can I give you something, whatever, just to extract information. But what I figured was they take their own time, but at the end of the day, when they're winding down is where they like to have the conversations, and then information just comes without,
So that changes at preteen and teen.
Yes.
Just want to let
I've
you
been
know.
warned. Yes.
How do you get your child to actually come back every day and tell you about their day, about whom they met, what felt good, what felt bad?
I have twin sons and both of them have very different personalities. One is very introvert and the other one is very talkative. But the introvert was a challenge. And so I have devised a technique which I suppose I've been working wonderfully with all my friends also. It's called sad, mad, glad technique. Okay.
Okay, I need to write this down. I
Okay.
want to do this.
So basically when
Sad,
they
mad,
come
glad.
home, I generally don't ask them about their day, but I tell them about mine. I start by saying that, I'm sad at this thing happened with me today, but I'm so glad that this and this happened. 3-4 days they were just listening to my sad, mad, glad technique, and 4th day the introvert guy opened up and he said, Mama, even I was mad at something today. So I suppose that's a technique which might work, yeah.
There is so much that is happening in the world of parenting that I am oblivious to.
I think it's a good thing.
Because I am just one of those mothers who wakes up in the morning and says, "Aaj ka din nikal jaye."
Of course. Kusum, you being a principal, you're dealing with young children all the time. So how much of an interaction is the appropriate amount of interaction for parents with teachers?
A daily interaction, they would love it. Lots of times, I've also asked parents not to be so intrusive, that as soon as we're handing over the kids to the parent first she asks, "Kisi ne mara to nahi?" So that needs to break. We do understand the anxiety. And what happens with children, they know that this is my routine in 2.5 hours. I'm here in school. Yes, after that, if my mom's promised me to come here on time, she needs to come and pick me up on time. So that's the way you're building the trust with the school as well. So the child knows that you trust the school, you trust the people here, and my mom's going to come back and be here on time.
Well, I think the main thing is basically balance. And if we have balance, then I hope everything will fall in place. I think it's very important to bear in mind that the teacher is handling many children at one time and may not be able to give each individual child, their attention. While with kindergarten, the workload isn't high. This is where children form the right or wrong habits when it comes to classroom etiquette and studying. How can we better work with teachers to ensure that our kids are doing well in school, and not just academically, but also personally? Rakshanda, as a new mom, what would you say about that?
I think whenever I go for these PTA sessions, the teachers find it very funny that I never ask them, does my daughter know how to write a perfect A? Has my daughter learned how to spell? Most of my questions are, so what is she like when she's in the class? A for apple to har koi sikha hi dega. They learn how to read and write. But I feel what is important for a school is to give them a proper, well-rounded education.
Richa, since you're an author, you also know that your child goes to school and of course she's going to learn so many other things. But when she comes back, you still want her to learn A, B, C and D from you. So how do you bridge that?
I try not making it an agenda. Whatever's environmentally available to you, that's such a conversation starter, as long as they absorb what's around them. When I take her outside, any kind of activities that we're indulging in, that also sparks conversation, and then, naturally it lends itself to you explaining about what is happening when. And most importantly, I don't know if it's a single child phenomenon, but I've seen that sometimes not doing anything is a great learning experience as well. Because, you just leave them be. I'm not constantly making an agenda for her, and sometimes it works wonders.
Sometimes. But Kusum, we always feel that our kid could not do this, or probably no, our kid was fantastic. How did he get such few marks? Or why is he not chosen to be the main person at the annual day concert? So how do we control our expectations and yet are not defensive when it comes to our kids?
Right, true. You need to trust the school. because you only put your child in a school that you believe in their philosophy and you trust the people there.
Neha, you have 2 boys, and we've been all conditioned to behave in a certain way. So as parents, do you feel that when your boys are at home, they're a certain way, and when they go off to school, they're a certain way?
So I've been seeing their behavior like this since the time they're born till now. They are very well behaved in their school, in their classes. In fact, I've never ever touch wood got any complaints about their behavior or their academics. But in this house, it's totally different. These both boys are like 2 monsters fighting all the time. But I feel as a mother now, I accepted it because they are quite smart to understand how to behave in a certain environment.
Because
so I
of
feel
that,
we should not always just keep thinking on why this kind of behavioral change is quite normal.
So basically, we have to not put up too many expectations and expect them to live by it. Well, I think it's so important for all of us to actually know our own headspace while we're talking to other caregivers. After all, it's very, very easy to be blinded by behavioral and other problems with our kids, because we don't really want to see them, right? I mean, we've all done it at some point. You know, the important thing is to be aware of it and to realize that the more we know, the better we can approach these problems with our kids and what they think is their problem with their teachers, or rather what we think is right for our kids. So let's talk about another area that we always have a concern about: what our kids are eating in school. You know, there's never enough time for breakfast, so no matter how hard we try, the tiffin is never fun or tasty enough. And there's always that one kid whose parents are giving him junk in their tiffin box, or then money to buy something in school which we may or may not approve of. How do we handle these situations is what we'd like to find answers to basically. 4.5. Your child has breakfast every morning before getting out?
Really? You think so?
I think so.
She eats everything and she eats nothing.
Oh.
So once she starts eating, she'll eat everything.
She's fine.
The point is to get her to start eating. I have made an entire menu for a week.
Okay.
Monday is this, Tuesday is this, and then she says, but today is not Monday.
Oh, lovely. You have a task at hand.
Give interesting names, because that's what we do with preschoolers, and give them one kind of food. So instead of making it an idli and chutney, so we are saying these are lentils, then we have this flour in that, and then we have those exotic names that you give her, and also something like a bread, that's an Indian bread. When we talk about pav or we talk about paratha, and how it is made with clarified butter. And so make it a little interesting for them.
So I think that breakfast is actually the most important meal of the day. So, you know, as a mom, what's the easiest breakfast that you can make for your child that is nutritious?
I think a smoothie is a good option for them, and put in a lot of nuts, because they need the proteins in the morning and a little bit of carbs also.
So, you know, I remember when my friends' children were going to school, the easiest go-to for a solidly nutritious breakfast for her was Ceregrow. Ceregrow is a nutrient-dense cereal packed with nourishment of multigrain cereals, the goodness of milk, and an assortment of fruits. That is so critical because you can only feed a little child this much at a time. Their bellies are so small at that age. Plus, it does not have any preservatives or added flavors. It isn't just something that fills the belly, but sets them up perfectly for the day ahead. Pura portion, puri tasalli. So breakfast is where we have control over what our kids are eating. So we don't have to worry about what they do with their tiffin box for the rest of the day. You know, it's okay, because they got a full dose of nutritious food first thing in the morning. And I think that's what we all want as moms, basically. You know, one of the things that really surprises me about preschoolers is the amount of energy they have, whether they eat or whether they don't. Well, mother's wisdom says that if we find the right outlet to channel their energies, we see better behavior all the time, while also, you know, stimulating their life with things that they totally love. So what do you think are the appropriate activities for children from, say, preschoolers?
If there was ever a debate, I would say I'm completely pro extracurricular activities. First of all, because I think children today are not exactly the same जो हमारी generation थी कि एक कोने में बैठा दिया बोला बोर हो रहे हो तो तुम्हारा problem है.
Yeah.
That's not how children are today, and therefore what I see with my child, she's 4.5 and she's a bundle of energy. she's very physically motivated. Maybe at some point I feel a little terrible because I did even offload some of my expectations onto her. My child was 2 when I sent her for the first extracurricular activity कि ये मेरी बच्ची गाना सीखेगी. She went there and she used to sing beautifully. But beyond a point I realized that she wasn't that happy in it as opposed to going out and running around and doing something more physical. I feel activities should be more centered around how your child is oriented, whether your child is more cerebrally oriented or physically oriented. In my case, my child, I feel, likes physical activities.
I personally feel that occupying them into something more constructive is very important. So I suppose there's one counselor who told me about PCM, and I would like to share that. P is the physical activity, C is the creative one, and M is the mental. You have to make sure that your kid is exposed to at least one of this extracurricular, each of the category. So they have to go for one sport, which can be a physical sport.
Yeah.
One creative activity can be a coloring at home or doodling. A mental activity can be playing chess or either, you know, playing a puzzle. That ways you'll understand that what exactly is their forte and what they want to get into.
I'm always the black sheep. I'm the man. I'm the one who's not joining this, that, going out for this, putting them in 10 classes. Having said that, I let her interests guide me. I know that the school is exposing her to a whole set of activities, like even 5, 6-year-olds. So she'll obviously choose from there. But there's so much that she sees around me. So as far as Anika was concerned, I just said that she wants to do Kathak and she wants to do Tabla, and of course the reading. She's seen it around the house, but you know, if I don't put her into a class, there's no way for her to, because you know, there's only a limited interaction in school. So then once I know, and I make one thing clear, I said, buddy, you're not doing this for me. If you're practicing, you're practicing. I'm not going to chase and add one more thing to my list, you know, that I have to. So she knows that if she doesn't like it and she doesn't pursue it on her own, it's done.
Well, that's a whole lot of useful information, but I'm afraid that's all we have time for at the moment. But the conversation continues in part 2 of this episode. We hope to see you there. Until then, remember, being a great parent is mostly about being there for your kids. The rest is free for all because we do not have a book of rules. See you.